Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft Order franchise mode here in NHL 25. So, last episode, if you did not catch it, we had another offseason, which included a pretty solid draft, I would say. Like, it wasn't the most insane draft in the world, but we did get some surprising prospects with that draft. We did pick up a guy that's already going to be in the AHL, that being, where is he? Left wing, right wing, not left wing. In Vasiliev, I don't remember his first name, Sergei Vasiliev. He is a 72 overall. He was a 71 out of the draft at 19 years of age. We got him in the 5th round, which is absolutely insane. So I'm hoping that this guy has a big year in the AHL, and maybe he could crack our lineup before the series decides to end. We also did draft a couple other decent prospects, some not so good prospects, but in terms of like age, you could see, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Conan was a part of this draft, right? Yeah. He was our first round pick. We had a couple other guys. Why did it just reset again? That's kind of strange. If we sort by potential, I think there was a few other ones. Like, we got some like low top 6Ds and medium bottom 6s as well. So it wasn't the most insane draft, but we were able to snag up a couple things that might end up helping this team out maybe near the end of the series, maybe not until the series is already done. But still, at least we helped out our prospect pool a little bit, because obviously our prospect pool kind of isn't as good as it used to be back in the day. So yeah, that was good. And we do have a little bit of a tough decision in terms of our lineup going into the season, because I'm not too sure exactly what I want to run with for this team in terms of like our team. Like, this roster on paper with the chemistry and all that doesn't really look that great, especially this top 6 defensive pairing. So I might have to do some adjustments before we start off this episode to try and get things a little bit better. But there is a nice little bit of youth injection with this roster, which I am very excited about, and I'm excited to see if it could help us in terms of playoff simulation a little bit better, because this team definitely isn't as good as they used to be, but I definitely still think it's good enough for us to probably make the playoffs, but I'm not too sure on exactly how long of a playoff team we'd be one for. So hopefully it's a good run this year. Hopefully we also stay healthy, because obviously if we get into injury trouble and stuff like that, we don't really have the depth that could basically help our team out. So hopefully we could find ways to win if there is injuries as well. But anyways, before we get into simulating another season, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into making some line adjustments and seeing what we could do with our lineup. So the first comment is from Michael Dos, who says, Vasiliev was one heck of a find. Put him in the AHL right away, and don't worry, he already is in the AHL. And I basically have him on the top line right now, playing next to Hartman and Krejcik. However, there is going to be some adjustments where I'm going to probably be calling up Krejcik as a healthy scratch depth option. I know it sounds weird using him as a depth option considering he's an 80 overall. However, he's listed as a depth forward. He's already 24 years old, so I don't think he's going to get really much better with a year in the AHL, so likely I'll call him up. And then basically what's going to happen with that is Newberry's probably going to be the first line center in the AHL, and we will likely be sending down to the AHL Dingle, because Dingle's only 21 as a low lead. He should be probably back in the AHL rather than being healthy scratch. So likely our new top line in the AHL at the start of the season would be Dingle, Newberry, and Vasiliev. Hartman will go down to the second line. But I think by having Vasiliev on that top line with some pretty good prospects, that he should have a good year, and hopefully that means he could get to our NHL bottom 6 or even like a third line guy by next season. Because if he could come in and basically replace somebody like Delisle, or be the replacement actually for even Kolarz when Kolarz retires, that would be very helpful for this team to have that type of option to go to for the upcoming seasons. The last and final comment is from Samurai Taku, says, that was an insane steal you got in the later round. Hopefully he gets good growth in the AHL and can play with the big club in the final season. At this point, it wouldn't hurt to see how McLeod is as a defenseman in terms of chemistry. Your top 6 pairing isn't all that great anyway, even if the chemistry were better. So, yeah, let's take a look and see if McLeod could fit our defensive core a little bit better. And if he does, maybe we could try and run him as a defenseman this year. But our top 6 pairing, we might honestly just keep this, even though it's a -3. Like, it's definitely one of the worst chemistries you could get on a pairing, but it's not very strong of a defensive pairing anyways, so it's not like it could be much better even with good chemistry. So I'm hoping that this pairing doesn't come back to bite us if we do decide to keep it as a pairing. But let's take McLeod off the offensive core just for a little bit here as a temporary thing here. We'll put Dingle in that spot for the time being, and we'll go to McLeod on the defensive side of things. We'll probably take out, I guess, Johnston would be the option to take out here. So let's take out Johnston, just put in McLeod for the time being. Let me go back here and go back here again just to see if that's actually -3, which it currently is. Can we get rid of it? We can if we use him as a defender. If we play him on the second pairing, which is interesting. So the only one that would work best on that top 6 pairing is Petterman again. And now the thing with Petterman playing on that top 6, though, is he'd complain about his ice time, because I know he has complained about his ice time before. Now, we could probably go to our penalty kill lines and take off Hutton off the top unit and put Hutton on a different unit, and maybe that way using Petterman on that first unit instead would help him with his ice time. So we could probably do something like that. Let me see the defensive ones again. McLeod, Carlotti. That's probably fine to have McLeod on the third one just because he's more offensively driven anyways. So this would be Bell and Hutton on that second penalty killing unit. Okay, it's not that bad, I guess. Maybe we will just keep McLeod as a defender. Like, I don't know if it's exactly what I want to have, but I mean, McLeod would be playing on the power play point here. So we'll take Dingle out of that spot for the time being. So McLeod to Lyle, second unit. Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea just to have him as a top 4 defenseman. Can I get him onto the top pairing at all? Yes, I can. Ooh, okay. Maybe I run him as a top pairing defenseman, but the only way that works well is if Hunwick's down to the second pairing, which Hunwick is arguably our best defenseman right now. Yeah, you probably should keep him up there, to be honest. Like, Hunwick's been getting better every single year. He was technically even better also than McLeod last season. And then Hutton, is he a DFD? He is, okay. So that pairing's pretty solid. I think we'll run with this as our defensive core and see if McLeod on a defense on a top 4 pairing rather than the first line left wing, if that helps out things a bit. Let me also just make sure the other power play lines has him on there, because obviously he's an important piece to this team, McLeod, in terms of the offense, so we want to make sure he's getting a big chance to help that offensive core a bit. And in terms of penalty killers, we already got that set up, so that should be fine. So the only thing we need to do, basically, is we need to take Dingle out of the lineup and send him down to the AHL, which means we need another forward to play in the lineup, which technically Wall's listed as a 4th line forward, so I could use Wall as a 4th line forward and just move people up. Who would I want on this top line, though, with Cashman and Dunham now that we moved McLeod back to defense? Maybe Delisle? Delisle is a top 6 forward. He does have good offensive awareness. We know that he has been picking up points in the past. Never usually a crazy point producer, but putting him on the top line might not be bad. Kopitz has been a good player, too. Last season, at least, he was very good. Does have good face-off stats, though. So he should be maybe down the middle more. Cogliano doesn't have as good of face-offs, but a grinder on the top line doesn't really scream interesting to me. Kolar's being on the top line. I don't think I want to put him back up there again. I think keeping him on a 3rd line would work a little bit better. So I think I'm going to move Delisle to that top line left wing spot, basically. And then we will probably... Doughty, I think, is listed as a 3rd liner, right? He is. I know Hansen's listed as a 3rd liner, and Reefers is as well. So who would I rather on this 3rd line? So Reefers is already 25, not going to get much better. Same with Hansen. Doughty's already 25 as well. Would I rather a two-way, or a playmaker on that line? Reefers makes it a +1 and makes the 4th line a +2 by moving Dingle down. Hansen probably doesn't make sense to put on the wing. Doughty up there just keeps it a +1. Who would I rather prioritize? Doughty is a low elite, technically. Does have very good passing stats. You know what? We're going to put Doughty on this line with Risto and Kolars. And then Reefers could play on the 4th line with Hansen. Dingle could hypothetically just play on that 4th line. And then we could use Wall as a healthy scratch. But Wall is listed as a 4th liner already. So that's where I'm like, I don't really know if I want to do that. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take Dingle out. He's still going to get sent down to the AHL. And we will throw Wall in as the 4th line left winger. So something like that would be our forward group. We'll send down Dingle. We'll send down... Is Johnston actually listed as a top 60? No, he's listed as a depth defenseman. That's actually perfect. We'll send down Seagal. So Seagal and Dingle go down. And then we need to call up 2 depth forwards. So we'll call up Krejcik. And we'll probably call up Newbury. Because Newbury's a 23-year-old. And should I call him up? Maybe I call him up. There's not really any other options. I mean, I could call up Corrado as one of them just because he's not going to get any better. You know what? Yeah, I'd probably do Corrado just so Newbury actually still gets playing time. So let's go back to roster moves here and do some sending down and get this set up again. I wasn't expecting to do much line adjustments, but I think this is probably what we're going to run with because it's better for the chemistry purposes. So we'll send Seagal down. We will send Dingle down because Dingle could get more playing time down there in a sense, and then maybe be a fourth liner for next season. Krejcik's list is a depth forward, so he'll come on up. He does go through waivers too, so we probably won't send him down at any point. And we'll call up Corrado as the other option just because Newbury should be still developing a little bit. Corrado is not going to develop much more, so we'll go with that. And that's going to be our adjustments. Let's go to edit lines in the AHL here, as the AHL does need to be set up still a little bit. So we'll move Newbury to the middle of the centers because he does have good face-off stats for a left winger, so him playing next to Vasiliev and Hartman looks pretty good. Bure has only low bottom 6 potential, so I'm not too worried on him. I guess we could just throw Peluso over to the left wing because he can also play left winger. Is there any right wingers that need to be in? No, there's not. So maybe actually we just put whoever we just sent down, which is Dingle actually. So Dingle needs to go to the top line. Hartman needs to go down. Anybody else was there that needs to play in the forward group? There's no other forwards. We only have another defenseman. So I guess by that standard, I think Seagal's an offensive defenseman, correct? No, he's a two-way. I guess we'll put Seagal in as a 4 down in the AHL, so we'll move Bure up, and we will move... Actually, Lebda could be moved up, because Lebda is also a guy that I recently drafted that needs to get some development, so let's move him up, and we will put on this fourth line, our left wing. We'll throw in Seagal as a forward, even though he's not a forward, just because of these adjustments. And then we'll put on the point on this power play. Let's put Seagal on this power play as well, just because Seagal does bring some offensive punch. So we'll do that for the kid. Or not the kid. He's not really a kid at this point. He's 29. So we'll just throw him into all these spots. And that should be good. Yeah, I think that's probably what we'll run with. It's not the best chemistry in the world, and I don't know why it still says there's a line that needs to be adjusted. Why does it still say there's a line that needs to be adjusted? Oh, it's probably the strategies, right? Yeah. I never usually go into this very often. So let's just put this to Dingle. This could go to Seagal. Perfect. So that is all set up and ready to go. So the AHL is good. The NHL should be good. Everybody should be in realistic roles for their team, the team as well, which is kind of nice. Because the only people that are scratch are actual depth forwards. I don't like really scratching Krejcik, to be honest. Like, I would throw him in instead of Wall if Wall's not doing well. But at the same time, Krejcik is literally 24 years old, so he's not going to get much better. And also the fact that he's a sniper, I don't know if he's better suited for a fourth line role. Like, Wall's a power forward. We could hypothetically swap the two of them around depending on how they perform, but Wall's actually listed as a fourth liner, so that's what we'll run with for the start of the season. Now we're done that, we should be good enough to actually start simulating. I want to take a look at our scheme fit again here quickly, see if it's improved a bit with the coaches, and then we'll actually get into simulating a bit our rest of the season and stuff like that. But let's see, Krejci, how are you fitting this team? Wow, 63. It's not the craziest, but it's better than probably Bielis. So let's hope that this coach works well. If this coach doesn't work well, maybe we'll swap back to our old head coach again. But let's get into simulating a bit and seeing if this team's actually going to do good. If they start not playing really well, maybe we need to make some adjustments because we do want to be a playoff team this year. But at the same time, if it's not going to happen, I guess it's not the end of the world because we could still get another good prospect in. But it is potentially the last year for a lot of guys, so I want to make sure that we're actually trying to be competitive still. All right, so preseason focus. Let's go on conditioning still, just because we do have a lot of older guys, and I want to make sure their skating's up to snuff. And then in terms of season goal, let's see what the coach thinks about our roster. He thinks we're good enough to compete still for the Stanley Cup. So if he has that faith in this team, I will definitely have the faith in this team that we can make it back to the postseason again. I think we still have a pretty good roster, but we don't really have that superstar level player anymore. Like, we have a lot of guys that are like average overalls, like 86 and stuff like that, but we don't have a superstar guy that's like 89 and above. So, other than, I guess, Hunwick's technically our best player on the team as an 88, I think. So far we're having a pretty dominant preseason, which is not necessarily a great thing because that means usually you have a bad regular season sometimes, but We'll see if that ends up staying true or not. As it looks like in the preseason, we're going to go 7-1, so pretty damn good. I'm hoping Gianta has another good year in him, because obviously last year was kind of an outlier year for him. So I'm hoping that obviously this year he's good. Now, he is in the last year of his contract. That's one thing I forgot about. Now, I know some of you guys are going to probably complain if I give him an extension, but I am already thinking about giving him one, even though we technically would have 3 goalies that are all elite and NHL ready. Maybe I should wait on Gianta, but I want to see what he's asking for first. And you know, that's actually a pretty good price point, to be honest, because he is going to be on the decline. He's going to be just a normal starting goalie. He has organizational interest, so I think I could be able to actually get him for pretty cheap. I know that would be running 3 NHL goalies, but at the same time, I'd rather have 3 NHL goalies than lose Gianta. So 4.8 for 2 years really is actually a pretty good deal, I'd say. Now, that does mean that he's probably going to be dropping off a lot. But I do think locking him up is something I want to do again. So no clause involved, which is also kind of nice, but let's do that. And he says, I'm not going to rush into a decision on this extension, so I'll take a few days to give it a proper thought. I hope he accepts it, because that's like literally half as much as he was getting paid before. And then, like I said, we do have Bachman and Andronov, who will be both RFAs for the rest of the series. So we might have 3 different goalies to be able to run. And if Gianta drops off a cliff, then we could obviously run Bachman and Andronov as the 1-2 punch, and then Gianta could come up from the AHL or whatever. But I do want Gianta just to retire with this team or finish the series off with this team, because he's been probably one of my favorite goalies, like I've said multiple times for a long time. Like, I don't think I've had a goalie this good since NHL 20 or 19, so it's kind of hard for me to move on from somebody like that. Let's take a look at the preseason stats out of curiosity, just to see who was doing what for his team. So Hudwick had a very good preseason, 12 points in 8 games. I forget when his contract is up. 2 years. Okay, that's not too bad. So we will probably have to still give him an extension at some point. Kopitz had a good preseason, which is hopefully a good sign of things to come. Risto still had a good preseason, and Kolar, so the old guys might not drop off too hard this season, hard to say. Now, they are getting way less ice time, but they are getting some power play time still, too, I think. What about goalies? Gianta had a 906, and Bachman had a 857. I wonder how Caleb Bachman's going to do this year in the NHL, because that's some of the youth injection that's going to be interesting. Like, he's been good in the AHL the last 2 seasons, especially last year. His playoff numbers have actually been good, too. The team just never gets really far in the AHL, but he's posted a 933 both years, so maybe a decent goaltender for the starting job at some point. Like, maybe he'll surpass Gianta. Gianta may be the backup down the road, but I do like it. All right. Now, the question is, how good is this team going to do during the season sim? As Gianta has enthusiastically accepted the contract extension. He likes the favorable tax rates in Albuquerque, which I honestly don't even know if New Mexico is a tax state or what, but that's kind of interesting. So shout out to Gianta, who decides to come back to this organization on a nice cheap contract. Like I said, literally, it's under $5 million. I think that's worth it, especially if he stays even as a starting goalie. Like, a starting goaltender is technically like a $5 million type of thing, and he's won of Vezinas before. I feel like he could have a strong season for our team. Now, the extension kicks place at the end of this season, so there is a chance that he still drops off a lot throughout his contract, but like I said, I don't really give a crap. I would be okay with using him as a backup goalie down the road. So let's start simulating, because we are already like 20 minutes into this recording, and I haven't even simulated through any regular season yet. So Carolina, we win 8-2 to start off the season. Well, that's a good sign of hopefully things to come. It shows our offense could score goals. We could also play good defensively. So hopefully this team gets off to a good note here. So we won our first 2 games, and then we got shut out in the next 2. So if that's a sign of what this team's like, we're going to be wildly inconsistent this season. But as long as we make the playoffs, that's all that matters, really. And Montreal, let's see if this is a win too. Yes, it is. 7-2 in our first 9 games. All right. This team might surprise us this season in terms of how we're sibling. Like, I think having guys like Risto and Kolars on the third line is kind of sneaky good, because I feel like those guys could still produce at this level. But obviously, with them getting older, they're going to just keep on dropping off. But I think having them on a third line, they could definitely surprise some teams for some offensive chances. So let's go through another month and see if we're going to still have a commanding way above 500 record by that point. We lose to the Islanders for our 3rd loss of the season. We also lose to the Flames. We do beat the Blue Jackets, though. So we haven't lost more than 2 games in a row at this point, which is good to see. St. Louis is a loss. Washington's a win. All right. We don't need to, like I said, to set the world on fire in terms of win, as Kolarz has been injured with an injured neck. That kind of sucks. Out till November the 20th. So I guess I'll just go replace player on that, because I should put Krejcik in that spot, which I think is a good spot for him to play next to Risto and all that. So let's just go replace player on that. And hopefully Kolarz does not get injured too much this season, because obviously he's 37 years old at this point. We definitely want to make sure that he's not getting too injured. Krejcik dropped back down to a 78. Hopefully he's not listed as a fourth liner. No, he's not. Okay, that's good. And he did pick up an assist in only 2 games, so he might be our best depth option, obviously. I think he is our best depth option. I would put him in for Wall, but I honestly have no idea if Wall would complain just because he's listed as a fourth liner. So that's the only reason why Wall's in the lineup right now. Game against Florida is another win. Yeah, we're looking pretty good so far, and at least in this first half of the season. Kolarz has now broken his nose, so he literally injured his neck. Now he's injured his nose. What's next? Is he going to have an eye injury? Well, let's go replace player on that as well. That's unfortunate for him. This might mean it's his last season if he's getting injured as much as he is, because usually he's not super injury prone. But 16-7 in our first 2 months. That's pretty good. We are first place in the division, or actually tied for it with the Blues. And we are probably, I'd say, like a top... Yeah, we're like a top 10 team in the league. We don't necessarily need to be a top 3 team, so let's see if this team can continue to win some games here. Let's go through December. See if we could have like 25 wins by the end of this month. There's a win over the Devils, Philadelphia, and the Rangers. Win, and is it another win? The answer is yes, 9-2. God damn. Okay, this team's looking good. I expected a little bit of regression this year just because obviously we are moving McLeod back to defense and stuff like that, and obviously Kolarz and Risto dropping off and all that type of thing. But seems like age is just a number, because this team is still assimilating quite well. Game against Vancouver is a shootout win. So we're on to 20 wins already, which is nice. We do beat Toronto in a shootout and Ottawa as well in regulation. Nice. And we do suffer another injury, but we have been still good with the injuries. Eugene Dunham has been injured with an upper body injury, so he's our best forward pretty much, I think, at this stage. We're going to go replace player. That will give Krejcik a big opportunity on that top line. I don't really care where Krejcik plays, as long as he gets a chance to get some NHL games in, and then hopefully next season he could be a full-time guy for us if we do lose Kolarz. So let's see. Dunham back in. Perfect. Yeah, literally Dunham and Hundwick are our best overall players on this team. So long to the days of Ristolainen being like the highest player on the team and Kolarz being a high player on the team. But that makes us, I think, a little bit sneaky good, I think. Game against Tampa, 4-1 win. We're almost on 25 wins. Boston is going to be a 7-5 win for win 25. We do lose in a shootout to Detroit. And we also lose to a shootout in Dallas as well. So we are 25-9-3 at January the 1st, which is pretty solid. It means we're on pace for at least 50 wins, I think, this year. And we are currently, I'd say, I think a top 3 team in the NHL right now. I guess we're only like trailing the Kraken and the Ducks for the best team in the NHL. So far, everything's looking good. We don't necessarily want to be a President's Trophy winner, but it might end up being the case where we win the President's Trophy and then being a first-round exit, or maybe this team's actually going to put it together in the postseason now. We do still have the second half of the season, so we could still fall off a lot, which might be beneficial for us in terms of getting a good chance to win the Cup, but let's go through January, see if we could be like at around 35 wins, I guess. I don't know how much games we have this month, but let's see how we do in January. Chicago and San Jose to start it off. Win and a loss, I'll take it. Montreal is a winning as well. I don't think we've gone on a long losing streak this season, and that is not what I want to see, especially after we just gave him an extension. Gionta has sprained his ankle. He's out till January the 30th, which will give a chance to the other elite goaltenders. So he doesn't go through waivers, which is quite nice. So yeah, at least we do have multiple goalies in the AHL, but Andronov will get a chance to play up here in the NHL with Bachman. And then, yeah, that's good. That's good, but it does suck for Gionta, because if he's going for another Vezina, that could hurt his chances. But we are going to have to rely on the next generation of our goalies, which is also kind of cool. So Bachman and Andronov. AHL will be Bergfors, who also has elite potential, and also Shodin. At least we have good goalies in the minors still, too. All right, let's continue to assimilate and see how we do without Gionta. Hopefully we can still win some games, even though there's a lack of experience in net now. 6-1 loss to Calgary, 2-1 loss to the Flames. Pittsburgh is a 6-2 win, though. All right. I'm curious on how these kids are going to do without Gionta. Because Gionta is probably like a mentor to the two goaltenders, I would assume, because he's been here so long. There's another 2-game losing streak, and Gionta is back. Nice. Okay. I wonder how good Bachman did while he was up here. Well, definitely, or not Bachman, Andronov did. I am a little bit worried that Gionta could get re-injured, so hopefully he doesn't, because re-injuries kind of suck. Let's go back to edit lines here. Get the set back up again. Make sure we also get Andronov back into the net for the AHL as well, because I don't want him scratched, because obviously he's one of the better prospects down there. So we'll go with that. Boom. And I do want to take a look at how Andronov did when he was up here. Let's see. 4 games, had a losing record and an .894 save percentage. Well, he's definitely not ready yet, but he probably will be ready to go next season. Like I said, we already just locked up Gionta. So there is a chance that Andronov will be at least in the minors to start next season again. And he might get called up for the playoffs now and again. Or we just run like a depth goaltender in case of injuries like this. Because you never know if Gionta is going to be super injury prone in his last few seasons or not. Chicago fires their head coach. All right. Game against LA to end off January is a shootout loss. We've lost a lot of games in the shootout, it seems like. But 31-14-4. That's pretty solid. We are still first place in the Central Division. And we're still a top 5 team, I'd say, in the league right now. So things are looking good. Let's keep on simulating. Like I said, we don't need to necessarily win 50-plus games. We could win 47 and I'll be fine. As long as we make the postseason, it should be okay. All right, a couple more wins. Nope, a couple losses. A little bit of a rough patch here, but there's a win over Utah. Vegas is also a win. Nice. Yeah, we're not losing too many games in a row, so at least this team knows how to be a bit more consistent than in the past. Still hasn't been as good of a second half of the season as it was in the first half, I think, but I don't really need, like I said, to win the President's Trophy, because we just know that it means maybe first-round exit. Game against Toronto, loss. It's okay. Game against Ottawa, 5-4 win. And then Anaheim is a 7-5 loss. So we're 38-19-5 a day before the deadline with 20 games to go. We're on 81 points, which is tied with St. Louis in our division at the moment. We are also tied technically with the Kraken in points. We're behind the Ducks, the Oilers. We're tied with the Penguins in points, behind the Flyers and Islanders. And we're technically, if we were in the Atlantic Division, we'd be first place. So right now, I think we're still like probably around 7th place in the league, something like that. We could easily get jumped by the Blues in our division, which is kind of okay too. So let's go through a day past the deadline. We aren't going to take a look at any trades that happen at the deadline just because there's no former players probably getting dealt at this point. There could be, but I don't really care to see that. I guess I would rather find out when we're in the playoffs if we're facing a former guy. So, all right, we do beat Carolina 39-19-5 after the deadline. It's pretty good. We should be clinching a playoff spot relatively soon because of that. So let's go through half of March, and we'll do the other half as well. But this team is going to be making it back to the playoffs again. Hopefully our age doesn't catch up to us in the postseason, though, because I think our average age on this team is quite old by comparison to like our days when we were winning the Stanley Cup and all that. And that's not a good injury to have, but at least he will be back for the playoffs. As another one of our old men, Kari Ristolainen, have been injured with a sore foot. He's out till March the 21st. So we'll go replace her on that because Krejcik can play center too. But that's not a great injury to have at this point in the season. But like I said, at least he'll be back for the playoffs. But I do expect our team to lose a few games without him just because he's the leader on this team. So 43-20-7. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's go to the 31st. I'm curious on the player stats on our team. Like, I don't know if we're a good offensive team or a good defensive team or what. I feel like we've had some good offensive games, but also we could be just a strong team in net. So, Kopitz has been injured with an MCL sprain. He'll be out till April the 23rd, which I think is into first round playoffs, which is not great. That's a quite substantial injury for this point in time. I was hoping it would be short term, but I think that means Kohlers might go into the top 6. Now, it said Ristolainen was back too, potentially, I think, right? Yeah, Risto is back. So we'll get Risto back in, and I will give a big opportunity to one Krejcik here in a top 6 role. He's a sniper, so he should be okay to be doing offense up there too, just like Kopitz was doing. So this is a big opportunity for Krejcik. He'll get to play the rest of the regular season. And let's see if that could help our team out a bit. But it does suck still to lose somebody like that due to injury for a while. Because like I said, Kopitz as of late has been a very good player. I'm not too sure how good he's doing this season, but last year he had 50 points. Like, he could easily be like one of our best players offensively this season, and to lose him for that time kind of sucks. We already put Risto back in, so we'll just go continue on that. Let me stop the sim as well because I can't see what's going on here. So we did lose a game in OT, won a game as well. Let's keep it rolling. Calgary is going to be a 5-1 loss. That's okay. We do lose to Columbus. Pittsburgh, 5-0 win. All right. St. Louis and Washington. Let's see about these two games. Loss and a loss. Yeah, we're on a little bit of a downwards trajectory at the end of the season again, but it could be the injury to Kopitz. We're 45, 24, and 8. We have clinched already a playoff spot, so we don't need to worry too much that we're going to fall out of it. But yeah, Kopitz will not be back till like around this week, so he's probably going to miss part of the first round, I'm guessing, at least. Like, he could be back for a game 6 or 7, something like that, but that's unfortunate. Edmonton, Nashville, and LA. Let's see if we could get any more wins. Now, we have clinched a playoff spot, so it doesn't matter too much, but let's see how we do to end off the season. So, win-loss and a loss again. Yeah, we're definitely not playing as good as of late. Like, we're kind of falling off a bit. Like, we're third place now in the Central rather than first. Maybe that gives us a better chance this postseason, but hopefully it doesn't mean we're going to be our first-round exit. We lose another game there to Buffalo, and Florida to wrap up the regular season is a 3-0 shutout. So, we are going to finish as the third-best team in the Central Division, because the Minnesota Wild are way back of us. They had 9 less points than us. Damn, that's kind of insane. All right, so 47, 27, and 8. I'd say that's a pretty successful season considering our age of our team and all that. Let's put my face back up on screen. Let me close my eyes. And let's make sure I'm not looking at any player stats here and trying to go to stats here, because I do want to just do it at the standings. So I guess, where is this stuff? Oh, it's right here. I didn't see any stats so far. Boom, boom, boom. And here we go. Perfect. Didn't see anything that happened, which is good. Don't know who led us in points, but let's see. So in terms of the entire league, we were outside of the top 8. We were the 9th best team in the NHL, which could be good for our playoff chances just because we were really good earlier on, but then we took our foot off the gas. So maybe this team's going to find itself in the playoffs. I just feel better chances if we had like kind of a more mid-season than a good season. In terms of goals for per game, we are one of the better offensive teams. We were 8th in the league, or actually tied for 7th, I guess, with the Washington Capitals. All right, pretty good. The Islanders were the best offensive team. Goals against per game, we were the 3rd best defensive team in the NHL, or tied for 3rd, I guess I should say, with Columbus. But St. Louis and Nashville were tied for the best. So I wonder what's going to happen with St. Louis and Nashville. Who's going to end up being the Jennings winner? Like, who did they give it to if they're tied in goals against? Because that's kind of strange. And we were very close to us in Columbus to winning it as well, but we didn't. So there's probably a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender on one of these 3 teams. It could be Malkin, our former goaltender. Could be Gionta again this year, but Gionta did miss time due to injury. Columbus's goaltender, who was it at this point? I don't remember if we know Columbus's goalie. Nashville, I'm trying to remember who their goalie is too, but no idea. In terms of power play percentage, we had the 3rd best power play in the league, 19.7%. That's actually kind of surprising that 19.7% is a top 3 power play, but damn, good stuff from our power play unit. And our penalty kill was also very good, so despite us not having the best chemistry on our special teams, they worked well. We were tied for 2nd with St. Louis on the PK. I will definitely take that. 24, 14, and 3 on home ice, 23, 13, and 5 on the road, 3 and 7 in our last 10 games. Does that mean this team is all of a sudden going to catch a heater in the playoffs? Because we had some really good stats despite finishing 9th in the league. I feel like we definitely could have a good chance to go far this year based on that. So there is that. Now the question is, who led this team in points? Boom. The answer, Dunham was 77. So despite us being pretty solid offensively, yeah, that's interesting. We didn't really have anybody over point per game, so I'm kind of curious on that. Dunham also did miss like a game or two due to injuries, so We must have very good depth scoring or something like that. But let's once again put my face on screen. Let me close my eyes again. And then let me try and change this over to each position just because I do not want to know who led this team in points. Or in each position. So let's go to this. Boom. And Cashman led us in center points. 74 points, 82 games. I mean, there's been no problems with Cashman as a top line guy whatsoever. And apparently his potential is down to exact bottom 6 already. I feel like Cashman could be a retirement candidate soon because of that. Like, there's no reason why he should be an exact bottom 6 forward as an 83 while he's picking up 70 plus points. I'm a little bit worried about that. A little bit worried on that because if we lose him, obviously, then that's going to be another big player off this team. Kopit's 59 points in 72 games. Obviously, he's going to miss the start of the playoffs, miss the last 10 games of the regular season, but another big year for Kopitz. He's starting to become a pretty decent player for this team. And it sucks that we're going to miss him this playoffs because last year, a few years, he's been okay. He's not been still a great playoff player, but still I think he would be better this year. Risto on 50 points in 77 games. Not too bad for Risto. -6 though, which is kind of surprising because he's not used to being a minus player. But 39 years old, exact AHL top 6 forward. Yeah, this is probably the last year for Risto being on that potential. Likely. Now, he still has 99 faceoffs, which is kind of crazy, and he doesn't have any X factors anymore whatsoever, so we'll see if he's able to add anything to his cabinet here. I'm not too sure if he'd be a Selke favorite or not. Cogliano on 39 points, pretty solid, 17 goals, 26 points for Hansen, 10 points in 23 games for Krejcik. All right, so Krejcik is at least doing a decent job while Kopitz is out, so it will be interesting to see what he could do for us this playoff run, but he's been pretty solid. He's been pretty solid. Let me take a look at Ristolainen's face-off stats here. 57% on the draw. Now, he didn't take a ton of face-offs. If he was a top-line guy, there's a good chance he could be up there for another Selke. And takeaways are a little bit low, though, so maybe not. Did have 3 fights this season. We actually had a lot of fights on our forward group so far. 8 fights from Cogliano. Goddamn. All right. Left wing side of things, what do we got here? Delisle on 69 points and 26 goals. Pretty nice season there for George Delisle. So that's why he was put up into that top 6 role and on that first line. Yeah, that's a big increase. Very big increase. Yeah, that's nice stuff. I like that from George. What about Kolar's 42 points, 75 games? Not too bad, only 6 goals, but he is more of a passer. And we knew he would be on the decline this season. This could be the last year for Kolar's as well. Definitely, yeah. He's definitely on the decline a little bit over the last few years. If he was on a top line, he probably would still produce really well. But at the same time, I feel like he is dropping off quite quick here. So, shout out to Kolar's. Then we also have Doughty on 32 points. Pretty solid year for Doughty. How does that compare to last year? A little bit better. Not by much, but that's still solid. Right wing side of things, we have Dunham on 77 points, as we saw to lead the team, which is pretty solid. It's not as good as obviously a few years ago, but he is still producing on a good level despite the team dropping off a little bit. We have Robertson on 65 points and 26 goals. Wow. So Robertson, I think, is another pending RFA again this offseason. He's already getting paid a ton. We might want to lock this guy up soon because he seems like to be getting better still every single year. Yeah, I really like Braden Robinson. 65 points, huh? Damn. And he's never scored less than 20 goals as well, so he is a good producer for being a grinder. So shout out to Robertson. Reefer's on 33 points. Wall on 22 and 17 goals is actually quite impressive. Apparently he did get a power play goal, but he really doesn't get a lot of ice time. So for him to score 17 goals in his rookie season, I will definitely take it. From a defensive standpoint, we had McLeod on only 49 points. Oh boy. McLeod's kind of hurting us a little bit. Now that 49 points is good, but he's signed to a $14.9 million contract. Because we thought he was going to become crazy good. But he had 74 points a few years ago, and he's been dropping off offensively the last few years. Kind of a little bit worried. I don't know if he would be better as a forward or not, but he has had a little bit of a rough patch here and there. But he is still a good offensive defenseman. Like 49 points is hard to get as a D-man, but he definitely should be getting more closer to 80-plus points. Hunwick on 34 points, Bell on 26, Petterman on 16, Hutton on 11, and Carlotti on 7. I'll take it. Goalie-wise, Gionta on a .921 save percentage. My man might win another Vezina. We'll see if he's actually up there for Vezina chances, but he definitely shows that he's still really good, and why Bachman and stuff like that aren't the future, or aren't the starters yet. That's awesome. That is awesome. That's why I gave him that extension early in the season, because or else he'd demand a lot of money. His extension is going to be so dirt cheap for this type of numbers. Now, we are a good defensive team in front of him too, but Gionta has been really good. When he's had really bad or good regular seasons, though, his playoff numbers usually don't tend to transpire as well, so I'm hoping that he still has a good postseason ahead of him as well. But yeah, that's another really good year for him. Unreal. He's had a lot of seasons where he's been above like a 917, 915. It's fantastic. So shout out to Gionta. Probably the best goaltender I'm going to have in quite a while. Hopefully he has a better playoffs than last year, though. And let's take a look at stats around the league now. Who led the league in points and all that? I'd expect it's been low scoring again this season because power play percentages weren't super high. And yeah, that is the question, the answer to it. Jordan Cunning, 112 points, leads the league. Potter, who is also in Pittsburgh, had 101. Everybody else was below 100. So the NHL continues to be low scoring in this franchise mode late into it, which is interesting. So only a couple 100-point guys, and they're both on the Penguins. Most goals this season was Potter with 51 goals. Nobody else scored 50 goals this season. Only 150 goals scored. Yeah, the NHL is definitely back to the days of, what is it, probably like the dead puck era almost. Not necessarily fully the dead puck era, but it's definitely not as high scoring as it once was. So, damn. Ever since like Stoughwood's retired, it's been lower scoring, I feel like. Because there's like basically everybody that's like point per game. There's only a few guys that are point per game this season. Like less than 20 guys are point per game. Everybody else is like below point per game. So that's kind of insane. From a defensive standpoint, what do we got here? The best is Ken Michelli. Don't think I've ever seen this guy in this franchise mode. 178 penalty minutes and 73 points is quite impressive. Damn. When was this guy drafted? Third overall, almost a decade ago. He has been getting better every single year, but this guy takes a lot of penalties, but he's also able to produce on a good level. That's very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a D-man like that, where it picks up like over 100 PIMs and can still put up like 30 plus points, even now 60 plus points. Playoffs doesn't do as much, but yeah, this guy's a very physical specimen. Yeah, 4-star physical, 88 strength, 89 body checking. Okay, I can see why. Doesn't have great fighting skill, but does get into fights, I'm guessing. All right. And then BeastNet was behind him, of course. BeastNet's usually up there. So McLeod on 49 points is one of the best defensemen in terms of point production. Now, he is way off of Robertson and stuff like that, or Roberts, I should say. But he is still a top 10 defenseman in the league in production with 49 points. So maybe 49 points is actually better than we thought it would be. All right, best goalies. Now, this is going to be interesting to see if Gionta's a favorite for the Vezina again. So, most wins was Boris Malkin. Oh, man, Boris Malkin might have it. 42 wins. Ranger for Nashville, I'm guessing? No, for Columbus. Viggetti must be Nashville's, right? Nope. Florida. Bermanis? Nope. I don't know where Nashville's goalie is, but interesting. So, Boris Malkin, honestly, might end up winning it over Gionta, but that might be okay. Spezza was up there in shutouts, our former goalie, too, but Lukovic and Stortini, they were the best goalies in shutouts. The best in terms of save percentage this season was technically Viggetti with a 922. However, I guess he had 39 wins, but he didn't have a lot of shutouts and stuff. So Viggetti led in save percentage, but Gionta and Malkin were both tied in save percentage. Goals against goes to Gionta, though, and shutouts goes to Gionta. Maybe Gionta is a favorite then. And best in goals against average was Gionta. So I think Gionta might win another Vezina. I think he might. It's either going to come down to him, Viggetti, or it's going to come down to Malkin. Malkin's goals against was a little bit higher. Gionta had the best goals against and had that same save percentage. Viggetti has a good save percentage, like the best save percentage, but worse goals against. A little bit more wins, but also played 8 more games and had less shutouts. Do you guys think Jason Gionta is going to win his 4th Vezina trophy? Because if he does, that would tie the most Vezina trophies I've had from a goaltender in a franchise mode. So, shout out to Gionta. Damn. All right. Best rookie of the season, Tuukka Laaksonen in Nashville. 53 points. All right. So there is all of that. Now the question is, who are we playing in the first round of the playoffs, and can we beat them? Who is it going to be? The answer is the Nashville Predators. Oh boy. So it's a goaltending matchup in this one because we know that Nashville is a good defensive team too. They finished a little bit better than us technically, so they do win the home ice advantage. They are 46-25-11. We are 47-27-8. So they had more points in regulation, I guess. And just in general because of the the overtime losses. Yeah, the amount of overtime losses helped them out a lot. They are also really good going into the postseason, 7-2-1. So I definitely think this could be a pretty good matchup. I feel like we're definitely maybe the better team just because we had a bad last bit of the season, but who knows? So in goals for per game, by comparison during the season, we were the worser offensive team. They were the better one. They scored 3.32 to our 3.27. Goals against per game, they were a little bit better. They were first, we were third. Power play percentage, we were better. They were worse. And in penalty kill percentage, we were better. They were way worse. So they don't have great special teams, but both 5-on-5 are both pretty similar teams defensively and offensively. So that's kind of interesting. All right, let's take a look at what they have on their roster. Then we'll take a look at their player stats as well. But we have played Nashville a lot more as of recently, so I think we know a decent amount about the roster because we know that they have that franchise player on that team. So we got to watch out for him. And yeah, this is the lineup. Oh yeah, I remember this line. Louis Boudreau, Vladislav Holton, and was Merrick's there last time we played them? I don't remember. I guess he was. I don't remember him as much, but yeah, that's a pretty good top line. Second line has Zachary Mitchell, Braylon Bembridge. Why do I remember Braylon Bembridge? He must be from this team as well. And there's the rookie Tuukka Laaksonen, 18 years of age. Was a drafted 5th overall just last year. So Nashville hasn't been good the last year, but I think they won a Stanley Cup recently or went to a Cup Finals recently. Like if we look at Vladislav Holton, yeah, he won the Stanley Cup in 2044 with them. And then basically after that, 2046, they drafted Laaksonen 5th overall. Now they're back in the playoffs again. So that's their top 6. Third line, Philippe Meloc, our former left winger. Oh boy, Philippe Meloc. How has he been since joining Nashville? Because he played obviously that year in the AHL with us, and then we let him go because we didn't have the room. 33 points, 45 points. He's been pretty solid. Good little like tertiary scoring option. So hopefully he doesn't do any damage against us. Former 10th overall pick. He's playing next to Gilbert Burrows and Tyrone Ludeman. Fourth line has Jared Cassian, Vaclav Hamrlik, and Nico Tuominen? Yeah, Tuominen. So that offensive core is pretty solid. It's definitely not as strong as it used to be. They definitely have some threats still like Holton, Boudreau, Bembridge, even Laaksonen and Merrick's. But everybody else is a little bit lower than anticipated. So I think they have the offensive upper hand just because they have the high-end talent. But I think we might have the better depth. From a defensive standpoint, Philippe Latendresse, I remember this dude. Because, yeah, he was pretty good a few years back, I'm pretty sure. But he's been a long time Nashville Predator, right? Oh, no, he was in Chicago, too. That's right. He's playing next to Stefan Graps. Interesting. Maurice Vauclair, as well as Jukka Toivonen. And a top 6 pairing of Kirill Novoseltsev and Gaspard Fucali. That defense, of course, quite weak for them being a good defensive team this season. Like, they were the best team in goals against the season. But the defensive core looks like that. That kind of makes me a little bit iffy because they are a good team, defensively at least, and offensively during the regular season, but their defensive core doesn't suggest that. So the goaltender must be pretty good because we didn't see their goaltender up there, but they were good in defensive play, so they must have a solid goalie, right? Oh, yeah, Damien Foy. And also Ralph Brower. Forgot about both these guys. I think both of them have been career-long Nashville Predators players. Foy had a .913 save percentage this season through 66 games. Yeah, and then last time they were in the playoffs is when they won the Stanley Cup. He had a .924 save percentage during that run. So they haven't been in the playoffs in a few years again, but they have won a Stanley Cup before. And then Ralph Brower as the backup has always been a Nashville Predator. Only played 20 games this year. Like, he's not getting a lot of starting time. Last year, I guess he got actually a lot of starting time. This year, not so much. But a 917 save percentage as a backup. And he's only played one playoff game in his career. 12 minutes, actually. Stopped everything. So, they do have very good goaltending behind a weak defensive core. And then a solid offensive core. So, we got to find ways to score goals on their goalies. If our offense dries up, that will definitely be the bane of our existence. And then from a scratch perspective, they have Guy Jelena. They also have Frederick Bachman. And an injury to Mauricio Peterson. Damn, I forgot Mauricio was still playing too. So our former top 6 center, Mauricio Peterson, is now in Nashville as well. Other former 10th overall pick, him and Malak. But Peterson was one of those guys that was tough for me to let go of at the time. But he left for us, went to Detroit, had some good years in Detroit. Now he's been in Nashville the last 2 years. Interesting. His first year in Nashville, they missed the playoffs. This year, he had 38 points in 64 games before his injury. Huh. Wow. Shout out to Mauricio, man. Won a Stanley Cup with our roster, too. He's making $9.375 million, so he's getting paid some good money, but he's currently injured. Once he's back, that center depth definitely looks a little bit better, too. So I'd assume he'd be like that third-line center, where Burroughs currently is. Interesting. Hopefully he's not back in the series because I don't really want to face off against him because I know that he's a decent player. Like, in his prime with us, I'm pretty sure he was like a 60, 70 point guy, right? Yeah, he had, I think, 70 points at his peak with us, but he was very good on the face-offs, did a lot of good penalty kill work as well with his team. Damn. Kind of sucks to see him near the end of his career, but he's not dropping off too hard, but he's pretty much similar to where Cashman is right now, I'm guessing. All right, let's take a look at those injuries and see when he is supposed to return. Also, Kopitz still won't be back till the 23rd, so yeah, we're definitely going to miss him for a little bit, which kind of sucks. But when is he supposed to return? Peterson doesn't return till May the 18th, so we will not see our former top 6 center. He will be out for over a month. So that's at least good for us, but does that make Nashville a little bit more of a threat because they have a player that's injured? Because I feel like some teams just simulate a lot better when they have a good player injured. Now, we do have one of our good players injured too, so maybe that's a good thing for us. But final thing, let's take a look at our stats from the regular season, see who was scoring goals for them, so we know who to watch out for. We know Holton's the main one, but was there anybody else that simulated super good this season for Nashville that we need to watch out for? So Holton had the 90 points, 38 goals. You had Merrick's with 69, so the top line does really well. 62 points from Boudreaux. Second line, Bembridge had 62. Ludeman had 55. The rookie Laxinen had 53. Malak 45. Yeah, they have some pretty solid depth scoring. Don't really get a lot of offense from their back end, though. That's one thing I'm noticing here. Like, if we go to their defenders, they're all under 30 points. But they all have very good plus minuses. Their goaltending obviously had both really good numbers. So, yeah, I think the one thing we need to be careful of is just not scoring enough goals. If we score enough goals, we could win games. But if Nashville plays that strong defensive style that they had during the regular season, it's going to be tough. But we're also a good defensive team, too. So it could be literally a showdown between Foy and Giunta in the first round. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the first round of the playoffs against a pretty tough Nashville Predators team. I think it's definitely going to be a defensive-based series, but if one team starts to give up too much goals, that's what's going to hurt them a bit, because both of us had good offensive cores during the regular season too. So I think it's literally going to come down to who could buckle in terms of defensive play first. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.